making content that fills the planet, but they are making all the magic that brings it all together, basically.
Gotcha. So for that reason, uh, while we're going to talk about Planet Tech, and many of the questions that came through today are reflective of upcoming planet technologies. That is a separate team. We attempted to get some of those folks in with this show as well, but scheduling issues prevented that from happening. So we are going to discuss some Planet Tech stuff amongst everything else that the Planet Content team works with. But because we have a dedicated team for that, we are going to reserve some of those questions that came in this week for the folks who are dedicated to making that. Additionally, one of the highest voted up questions this week was about the progress of rivers, and we have a segment that we have filmed with Will Hain about rivers that is going to air in ISC in 2 or 3 weeks, depending on some other scheduling stuff. So we're going to reserve most of the rivers conversation for that, but we'll touch on it a little bit today. So right off the bat, one of the big questions that came forward, everybody knows that we're heading towards Pyro this year. That's the focus of many teams throughout Star Citizen and the different studios. When the idea of Pyro was first introduced, so many years ago through the concept art and stuff, there was a lot of talk about lava, molten planets, stuff like that. We haven't seen that as of yet in any of the stuff that we've shown of Pyro. So the question here is simply, will Pyro or any of its planets and moons have flowing lava fields?
Right. With the work on rivers, they're obviously like the bridge to lava feels very close, and we're definitely planning to do lava and also probably retroactively on Pyro after release, but I'm very unsure right now if it's gonna like make the deadline for the initial Pyro release to actually have flowing lava rivers. But it's definitely planned, and once rivers are fully there, I think the next step shouldn't be a big one to get to lava rivers.
As folks have seen with the Stanton system, an initial version of a planet will go out, and then it will continue to be iterated as new technologies come online. So just to reiterate that, whenever the Pyro system does come online, and folks in the chat are already saying, "You said Pyro this year." I said we're working on it this year. That's all I'm committing to. We're working on it this year. It may or may not have the flowing lava when it's first introduced. It just depends on how the schedules and the technologies line up at that time. Let's see, what else do we got? Any plans for explorable oceans, seas, or lakes? Lots of underwater gameplay. What can you tell us about the future of underwater gameplay?
Yeah, for us as the Planet content team, like I do think we all want to provide like the same gameplay experience that you have on the planet surface, like visually, also underwater. So I think we're excited to look into that some more and have a lot of like biodiversity underwater eventually. Like when it comes to like exploration and stuff, I think that's for like other departments, right? But we're definitely interested in providing the space and making everything look interesting.
Gotcha. Unicaller says, "Stop saying Road to Pyro." No, we're on the road to Pyro. That's where the majority of our focus for the Persistent Universe team is working towards right now. Doesn't mean it's going to come out this year. We're working towards it. With the introduction of clouds recently in Alpha 3.15, is there any work currently done for dynamic clouds and weather effects like storms, lighting, etc.?
Right. So what we released with was like a V1 of clouds, basically, and there's like, I think it has been communicated plenty of times that we're still developing the technology for it. And the long-term plan is certainly to have dynamic clouds, animated clouds, and having clouds form and dissipate based on climate and weather. right now the focus is more on performance, getting them to be as performant as they can be, and then there will be another round of quality and detail improvement to allow us to make more elaborate and more realistic formations of clouds and have more diversity within or on one planet, basically. And then either with that or after that, the plan will be or is to look into dynamic clouds, animating and forming and the whole cloud deal, basically.
How detailed are you planning to go with cloud formations? Are you going to see things like supercells or hurricane formations?
As part of our continued effort to improve our tools and pipelines, we're also working on more realistic global cloud generation. And part of that is definitely supercells and hurricanes that gather over oceans and then start moving towards land and stuff like that. Like for the first iteration, they will be static, obviously, unfortunately, but eventually the goal is definitely to have those. And we're on all fronts, like even large scale and small scale. There are a lot of things we still want to improve and are working on to make better and more realistic.
While we're on the subject of clouds here, the clouds on Microtech are seemingly different from those in the Pyro demo that was shown at CitizenCon. Is this due to performance reasons, or why do they seem different?
Fundamentally, they're like the same, using the same system, the same kind of data. They just use a different amount of a different type of data that goes into them, and that was mostly because the art direction for the Pyro clouds was a very different one than for the Microtech ones. But fundamentally, they are the same clouds, and they should perform almost the same. They will hopefully come out with Pyro then. But there's like fundamentally no real difference between them.
Is that something you think you might explore later, though? I mean, would clouds on different planets and different star systems form the same or look the same?
That's a very good question, and something we'll definitely have to come back to. With a lot of, we're making like a space game with a lot of stuff that nobody knows how it actually works. Like I don't think anyone has been to a gas giant, like really at least. So we're like always taking some liberty and trying to make things as interesting as we can. And with the systems we still want to release, I think there's plenty of room for more alien and other kinds of exploration. We'll see. But it's definitely not gonna be all Earth-like clouds. That's pretty sure.
Let's just stick with the clouds here for a little bit before we move on. Why don't we have clouds on other planets besides Microtech yet?
Right. It is a decent amount of time investment to author clouds, especially since we're like so early in the process. Like we don't have all the knowledge and all the tools we need or want to get whatever specific visual target. So we do have to spend a fair amount of time to develop those and figure out what we need to do to get the visuals we want. And then the system is still very much subject to change and will change dramatically over time. So we don't want to spend too much time, making things that are gonna like have to be reworked a lot of times. So we're definitely working on rolling out more clouds to more planets. But it's not gonna as long as the system is so much being in development, we're not gonna just do them for all of them, or like we're not gonna do like generic ones for all of them. We want them to feel different and like portray the planet in a way that makes sense for the planet, and just like,
in comparison to the Microtech clouds, this is their words. How is the progress looking for clouds on the? Why do the clouds look different on Jumptime 2 than they do on Microtech?
Well, I mean they're using the old 2D clouds, and obviously they look worse. And just to it's basically the same answer that I've given before, right? Yeah. It's we will get to it, but it's not like we don't want to do generic clouds everywhere, but rather like